Good day to each and everyone. Today, I am going to discuss and we're going to analyze the poem written by Rafael Zulueta entitled Like the Molave. The poem states that whilst many Filipinos are achieving great things for their country, there is still much more to be done and more residents must contribute to the efforts. In short, Like the Molave is about inspiring the Filipino nation to improve their country and make it self-sufficient. So before we proceed to the discussion, let's have vocabulary check first. So here are some unfamiliar words that you may encounter in the poem. First is the sinus, which means powers. Second is flaccid, meaning lifeless. Marmoreal, meaning made of or likened to marble. Staunch, which means loyal or devoted. And smug, meaning annoying quality of people who feel very pleased or satisfied with their abilities and achievements. So the author of this poem is none other than Rafael Zulueta da Costa. He is a Filipino writer who was born on January 1, 1915 and died on January 1, 1990. He used the name R. Zulueta da Costa as a writer and Rafael Zulueta da Costa as a businessman. He graduated at De La Salle College or University where he specialized in business administration. So, other sources claim that he was born on September 27, 1915. He began writing poems in Spanish and later he also wrote in English. He published his first book entitled First Leaves at the age of 19. For the introduction, Rafael Zulueta da Costa compares the vigor and vitality of Filipino youth to the gorgeous Molave tree, a native of the Philippines, in his poem Like the Molave. The author hopes that future generations will have the same durability, strength, and beauty of mature Molave tree. The poem depicts the miserable existence of the underclasses in the Philippines with the help of strong imagery of toil, suffering, and bloodshed. The title itself suggests that we Filipinos of today must be like the Molave tree and we need to be firm, stanch, and resilient. The poem is all about inspiring the Filipinos to improve the country and make it self-sufficient. Proceeding to the brief overview of the piece, written in 1940, Rafael Zulueta da Costa's poem Like the Molave especially relates to Jose Rizal's legacy. It is dedicated to Rizal since Darwinian criticism may be the most effective way to analyze this poetry. So when we say Darwinian criticism, it is a branch of literary criticism that studies literature in the context of evolution by the means of natural selection. So like the Molave, strives to inspire the Filipino people to build and maintain their country. Strong emotions were used to write this poem. So, the intense feeling is also connected to the Costa's desire for a more developed and improved Philippines. It says here that a hero like Rizal, in Zulueta's opinion, shouldn't be taking rest yet since our country needs him to grow. Even though many Filipinos are making excellent contributions to our country, the poem says that more people need to get engaged because there is still much work to be done. So here is the copy or the summary of the poem, but I will not going to discuss this slide anymore because the summary of this poem will further elaborate on the next slides. So now let's proceed to the implication of the poem, analysis per stanza including the figures of speech used and of course the symbolism. For the first stanza, not yet Rizal, not yet. Sleep not in peace. There are 1,000 waters to be spun. There are 1,000 mountains to be crossed. There are 1,000 crosses to be borne. Our shoulders are not strong, our sinews are. Grown flaccid with dependence, smug with ease. Under another's wing, rest not in peace. The opening line of the poem begs Rizal not to rest yet since our nation needs him to help it become more independent from other nations. It says here that Rizal is unable to rest yet because we still rely on others heavily and must learn to be independent. Proceeding to the second stanza, not yet Rizal, not yet. The land has need of young blood, and what younger than your own, forever spilled in the great name of freedom, forever oblate on the altar of the free? So it says here that the Philippines need young people with courage so that we can fight for our nation and achieve true freedom. Zulueta asserts that young people in our nation must be as courageous and as brave as Rizal in order to everyone or for everyone to have the guts to fight for the freedom we all long for. Now let's proceed to the third stanza of the poem. Not you alone, Rizal. O souls and spirits of the martyred brave, arise. Arise and score the land. Shed once again your willing blood. Infuse the vibrant red into our thin anemic veins, until we pick up your Promethean tools and strong, out of the depthless matrix of your fate. In us and on the silent cliffs of freedom, we carve for all your marmoreal dream, until our people, seeing, are become like the Molave, firm, resilient, staunch, rising on the hillside, unafraid, strong in its own fiber, yes, like the Molave. The author in this stanza emphasizes that even heroes requires assistance and that if we do not work together to achieve our goals, we will not be able to obtain the freedom we seek. The author also instructs us to emulate the Molave tree, which is strong, flexible, and resilient. Marmoreal means marble, and marble symbolizes purity and immortality. For the fourth stanza, not yet, Rizal, not yet. The glory hour will come. Out of the silent dreaming for the 7,000-fold silence, we shall emerge saying we are Filipinos and no longer be ashamed. So Zulueta says in the fourth stanza that once we wake up from the dream, we will be fearless enough to declare that we are Filipinos and stop worrying. It says here that someday our dream to achieve freedom will come true, and that will be the time where we realize that all of our simple actions will bear the fruitful consequences. And by that time, we can be no longer ashamed to say that we are Filipinos and we are all like the Molave. For the fifth and last stanza, sleep not in peace. The dream is not yet fully carved. Hard the wood, but harder the woods. Yet the Molave will stand, yet the Molave monument will rise, and God's walk on brown legs. So, this last stanza tells us that we must be as resilient and brave as our heroes, since our nation will surely face more challenges in the future because achieving the freedom is not yet the end of the battle. So now let's proceed to the figures of speech that was used in this poem. First is the simile, strong in its own fiber, yes, like the Molave. So it's very obvious that there is a simile here from the word like. Next is the personification, yet the Molave will stand, yet the Molave monument will rise, and God's walk on brown legs. So, the Molave tree here was personified by the Filipinos. Next is the apostrophe. O souls and spirits of the martyred brave, arise. So, apostrophe will always be placed either before or after an S and at the end of a noun owner. Last one is the repetition. There are 1,000 waters to be spanned. There are 1,000 mountains to be crossed. There are 1,000 crosses to be borne. So we can see that the words there are 1,000 was repeated 3 times in this line. So proceeding to the symbolism, Zulueta used a single symbol in the poem and it is the Molave tree which symbolizes strength, flexibility, and resiliency that every Filipinos must have. The poem makes use of imagery and metaphor to motivate the reader in their personal pursuit of their aims and rights. For the theme of the poem, the foundation of freedom is unity. It means that kung walang pagkakaisa, hindi makakamit ang kalayaang hinahangad ng lahat. Therefore, we should act as one and stand as one to make our country a better place to live. So, meron din akong nakita na isang quote from a famous author na pwedeng maging theme ng poem na ito. So, this quotation is from J.K. Rowling and it says that, "We are only as strong as we are united, as weak as we are divided." So, it simply means that we are only strong and powerful when we work together. Through unity, we can have the power and strength to face the struggles that life throws at us. But when we are divided, we are nothing more than a sinking ship. That is why we have to prove to ourselves that we are Filipinos who are united and always ready to take challenges as one nation. So now let's proceed to the sociological or social relevance of the masterpiece during the period. The poem Like the Molave by Rafael Zulueta da Costa was written in 1940, which is under the middle period 1930 to 1960. During the years 1930 to 1960, Philippine literature in English is rapidly improved, especially in the areas of essay, short story, and poetry. The poetry of the middle period developed slowly. In the 1930s, most poetry was still romantic in character. Under the influence of Salvador P. Lopez, some poets like Arzulueta da Costa became more conscious of the environment and dealt with the theme of injustice and oppression. In this period, poems are typically written because of the war conditions and censorship, according to Ofilanda 2023. So during this middle period, wars are already widespread, and because of that, Zulueta had the reason to write the poem entitled Like the Molave, which talks about freedom. So sa tulong ni Salvador P. Lopez, si Rafael Zulueta ay naging mas conscious in environment and sa mga wars na nagaganap. And dahil doon ay nakabuo siya ng team tungkol sa injustice and oppression. So that is the sociological relevance of the poem Like the Molave during the time it was written. So here are my references in case you wanna browse it for more informations. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening and God bless.